morning, everybody. Well, we've had a few DCs, disconnections, about 5 or 10 minutes ago, but we haven't been down since. So, hopefully, we will be able to get this show on the road. Good morning to Joe KB. Good morning to Mags. Hidden, I hope you're well. And good morning to everybody over there on Binance Square. I hope you're doing really well. I suppose we should start the show. Good morning, everybody. Another day in February. February the 9th, I believe. It's Valentine's Day, I believe, on Saturday. So for all of you guys out there who have your girls, Saturday is Valentine's Day. And to celebrate that, we will be streaming on Saturday morning. So get up, watch us talk about Maple Finance, and we will remind you to go out and get the box of chocolates, the roses, and the bottle of wine or bottle of alcohol-free wine, wherever you are, on Saturday. That's your objective. Make it through the week, get to Saturday, watch us, and we will make sure your Valentine's Day goes off without a hitch. Now then, we have a busy show. It is a Monday, and I did prepare this stream yesterday morning. Haven't done anything between yesterday morning and today regards to adding any content, because pretty much on a Sunday it's a dead rubber. Now, we are going to be talking about whether Michael Saylor is dead. We're going to be talking about XRP flows. We're going to be talking about treasuries. We're going to be talking about Ondo. We're going to be talking about Monero, ENS, and Tether if we get there. So there's a lot of wide and varied content today. We are also going to look at the Bitcoin chart, and I'm going to do a little bit of Tony Hart live on the stream. For those of you that don't know who Tony Hart is, think Bob Ross with better skills. Okay, think Bob Ross, better skills, less hair. I'm going to do some Tony Hart for you. We've got some X-Files. And, of course, we are going to be going over the prices. Now, one thing to bear in mind, this Wednesday, there is no quiz scheduled. We were running around about 3 quizzes a month up until the end of last year. And then we kind of parted ways with Mew. Not on bad terms, but we had been promoting them for about 18 months. And in crypto land, that's a very long time. Now, you will see, never going to get this bit right, am I? You will see up there different logos. You will see Maple Finance, you will see Wolfie Wolf Swaps, and you will also see World Liberty Financial. We will be talking about them a lot more. A couple of live streams lined up for February. We are partnered with them for the month of February only. So if we get to March and that logo disappears, do not think we have fallen out with World Liberty Financial, but we are going to be talking about them as well as talking about Maple and Wolf Swap as we go. The next, as far as I'm aware, the next quiz will be the 18th of February, which is a week on Wednesday, and that is the Wolfies quiz night. So, good morning to you, Danny. I hope you are well. I suppose we should get on with the show, should we not? What do we have over here? We have a dog being, I don't know. Anyway, we're not looking at dogs today. We're looking at the charts. Now then, Bitcoin coming in at 69,500. I think it wicked up to 72,000 last night. Everybody thought we were back. Not going to happen just yet. Ethereum is still above $2,000. That's an absolute godsend. BNB, XRP, still around the same prices they were on Friday. Solana, we bought at between $90 and $100. We've bought between $80 and $90. If Solana drops again to $74, $76, we will buy again. We are like Bob Mortimer, okay? We will buy again. If Solana goes down towards $60 to $70, we will buy again. Okay, that is our strategy for Solana. What we will not do is if the market recovers between now and, say, March, we will not be buying Solana. Then in the summer, if we see some kind of correction to the downside, which we expect, then we will start buying Solana again. So we're only buying it at very specific prices, and that's just our strategy. Do what you want. It's dollar cost averaging in. Further down there, Cardano, again, back at $0.25. Hype is really, if we look in the top, 20 coins, Hype is the only one that gives us hope. And that is still up 2.5% over the last week at $31.80. I don't expect that to continue forever and a day. Of course, we don't expect hype to continue to plow on upwards while everything else is coming down. But if you've got hype and you got in at hype, congratulations to you. Incredible news. Now, losers. Over the last 24 hours, what has come down? Humanity Protocol. World Liberty Financial is under $11. Sorry, under 11 cents. We said on our stream a week ago, anything under 11 cents for me is the great price to get into World Liberty Financial. I have been saying that since the token went live. I think a good price to get in is about 9 to 11 cents. A good time to take profits is somewhere in the region of 18 to 20 cents. Those are my two kind of price ranges. But I'm not expecting World Liberty Financial to go anywhere near that in the very near future. So this is the accumulation zone. 10 cents, 10.5 cents, 9.5 cents. That's a good price for me. Decred is up sky. Monero, not many winners this week. This day. Sorry, my phone's vibrating again. Dupe is down, taking an absolute pounding. The community is not happy with the dupe allocations and how they're dealing with it. Personally, I think they should continue the buyback and burn mechanism, which they're doing. They are burning around about 2% of the supply every year. I think that's just as good as anybody else. If you look at what BNB does, if you look at the likes of Hype, if you look at Maple Finance, I don't think 2% is that bad. 2% of a supply over 5 years is 10% of the supply burnt. The more the price comes down, the more gets burnt. That's one of the beauties of the buyback and burn mechanism, because they make their profits in pounds, shillings and pence, cash. So if the token is getting cheaper, they simply buy back more of the token. If the token is 30 cents and they buy 100,000, the token drops to 15 cents, they're buying 200,000. Simple maths. So I am still... Listen, the company makes money. The company makes a massive amount of profit. I don't care what this is telling you right now. This is a viable profit-making business. And this is one of those tokens that people look at and say, if this was in any other industry, would it be doing so badly? And I don't think it would. I don't think it would. Lighter is down. ARB is down. Ondo is taking an absolute kicking. Chili's, Near Protocol. It's just a red day. It's just a red day. Let's get on and have a look at some X-Files. Let's not dally here. And, the market cap, by the way. I think the market cap has come down to what? Here we go. Market cap is down at 2.36 trillion. Are we likely to see a sub $2 trillion market cap in 2026? If we go to the price target that I've gone for Bitcoin, absolutely. I do think we will go below $2 trillion. I don't know if we're going to break below $1 trillion on Bitcoin. I don't think we will. Maybe that's where we bounce. But anyway, let's move on. Let's get on. Market Watch is first up. What is coming up this week? Monday, not really a lot to talk about. Tuesday, retail sales, pretty important to give a direction of the market, but not super important. Employment report, unemployment report, pretty important on Wednesday. Jobless claims on Thursday, again, important. Now, Friday the 13th, may I add. CPI coming out on Friday. According to Trueflation and many others, we are looking at under 1% inflation in America. And that, according to the experts, is really bad. We don't want to go into negative inflation, which is deflation. So the CPI is coming in. People expecting it to be plus 2% plus. Again, according to Trueflation, we're running at 0.89%. Now, funnily enough, talking about Trueflation, I've been talking about them now for about 2 years. The one thing to understand about them is, I've been saying for a long time that their data is more accurate than the American government's data. They've gone away and done their own studies on this, and I can't remember if it was 6 or 8 weeks lag between their data and the American government data, which is pretty shocking. It's shocking. And what that means is that February's data for Trueflation is February's data. But February's data from the US government is December's data. Now, again, they are an independent company. They're not the American government. You could argue maybe that they are, not an official source, but they're more accurate than the American government. And if anyone was going to fudge the data, would it be Truflation and lose their reputation, or would it be the American government? That's all I'm going to say. So Friday is a big day, and I think Wednesday is a big day. But of the two, Friday is the big day. Friday's CPI data is the big day. If it comes in at 2.3, 2.4%, that's good for the American economy. But I don't think it will lead to rate cuts. Now then, moving on. CFTC expands stablecoin rules to let national trust banks issue dollar-pegged tokens under the Genius Act framework. This is the one ongoing story. The one ongoing story you need to pay attention to. On one hand, you have the banks that don't want to pay interest because they keep that as profit. On the other hand, you have stablecoins which want to pay you 4%, 5% per annum on your stablecoins. The banks will see the bank run, the stablecoins will see the inflows, the stablecoins will get bigger and stronger, and the banks will go bust. That is the crux of the argument between the banking industry and the stablecoin industry. I think the banks are going to get out of this with exactly what they want, because they are the banks. And I think that stablecoins will be stifled somewhat in America. Okay? Now, we're not saying that the banks are right. What we're saying is the banks hold the power. They hold all the cards at the minute because they're still bigger than the stablecoin industry. So whatever happens, the banks are going to win. Personally, if I was Bank of America, I would have my own stablecoin, and I would have 3% on it or 2% on it, and I'd have my own stablecoin. But the question is, how much of a dramatic impact is it on the banking industry if everybody flees their 0.25% account to go to a 4% account? Because it will be an apocalyptic zombie. There will be just empty banks with zombies walking out of them. Your old bank manager will just be finished. They'll all be gone. So it will destroy an industry, which we probably don't want to destroy. So I don't know how they're going to work it out. We'll see. Dan Crypto trades after such a volatile few weeks. Price will attempt to start ranging at some point. With this recent spike in volatility and big retrace yesterday, there's a good chance we're hitting that point now. I'm going to show you my Bob Ross drawing and my heart drawings in a second. But basically, what Dan Crypto Trades is basically saying is that we have found a level now and we could be here for a while. That's what Dan is saying. And we're going to have a look at that in a minute. Now then, one of the most significant Bitcoin charts you have never seen by Plan C. Again, there's some kind of cult out there, where a cloud floats overhead and then a chicken lays an egg. And the objective is to try and spot the clouds to see if chickens lay eggs. It's cause and effect. Now, this is a chart we've all seen before. We've covered it before. This is the miner cost of production. How much does it cost to produce one Bitcoin? And that price is $67,000 according to this chart. This is not just on-chain data. This is a cost of production model for Bitcoin. It sounds like an M&S advert. This is not just on-chain data. This is M&S on-chain data. And this is the chart now. It has gone below this line. And the miners have gone into a loss on this. It's never... Again, this is like fudgy data, where you depends on where you look at the price of mining a Bitcoin, all these kind of things. It can go below this number. There is nothing stopping it going below this number. And we are more than likely going to go under this number, because if you look at the points that he's pointing to, I guarantee you they will tie up with maybe the 2018 and the 2022 bottoms. So again, we will break this line. And this, I just don't... I've always seen this chart. I don't care how much it costs to mine a Bitcoin. Because what will happen is, let's say that Bitcoin falls to $60,000, $55,000. What will happen is, very simply put, the miners will stop mining. They'll turn off. That will reduce the difficulty to solve the block. That will then reduce the effort for those machines to find the block, and therefore the price of production will come down. So it's okay saying, oh, well, the price will stay above this number. No, it doesn't. The price reflects how much it's costing right now to make a Bitcoin. It doesn't reflect anything else. And I think we need to stop reading into everything. Everything like the money supply is solely responsible for the price of Bitcoin. The miners, 67,000, it shows you what the bottom is. It doesn't really show us what the bottom is. Now, this is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard in my life. Jim Cramer heard. Now, you know one thing. Whatever Jim Cramer says is the opposite of what will happen. If Jim Cramer says it's going to go light at 8 p.m. this evening, you know it's going to go dark. If Jim Cramer says that they put there's no ice at the Antarctic, you know there's going to be ice at the Antarctic. He is you can inverse Jim Cramer, your portfolio, and make astronomical gains. He heard, and I'd love to know where, that Trump is going to buy the dip on behalf of America at $60,000. That is what Jim Cramer sat in that room and said. Again, Jim Cramer is no expert at anything other than standing in front of a camera and being wrong most of the time. Okay? Sounds very, very, very familiar. So again, don't read into this kind of stuff. Okay? He said, she said. Did the person say it? Has Trump said it? Did Trump come out and say, we're going to start buying Bitcoin at $60,000? No, he didn't. So he heard. Wonderful. I've heard many things. Most of them have never turned out to be true. Absolute clowns. The place is being run by clowns at this moment in time. And there's a lot more than that, by the way. That's the tip of the iceberg. There was a lot more from Mario Narwhal, or whatever he was called, on Twitter over the weekend. There was a lot of other people putting stuff out, which is just utter crap. Satoshi Nakamoto being Jeffrey Epstein, being the worst one, or Satoshi Nakamoto meeting Jeffrey Epstein. It's all crap. It's all crap, and it's attention-driving headlines, and the truth has been lost. The truth has been lost. I don't know where it went. I think it left about maybe the time that the internet started, or maybe it started when social media started. But the truth walked out the door, packed its bags, went on holiday, hasn't come back. And it's like, I feel like, and I've said this before, I feel like I'm in the movie The Body Snatchers, where all the people walking around, they're all the same people, but they're not the same people anymore. They've all been like taken over by an alien virus or parasite or whatever. I can watching people saying, how are you saying these things? Why are you saying these things? MicroStrategy's $49.4 billion. Bitcoin covers $8.2 billion in bad debt with cash reserves funding dividends and no major repayments until 2028. Is Saylor's strategy actually in trouble? I've read about this before. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because it's very difficult to talk about this when we're absolutely crashing, because you're not going to want to hear this. It's going to sound like me just trying to placate everybody. Basically, there are people saying that Michael Saylor's company will be liquidated and all of the Bitcoin will be moved back into exchanges and sold off and drive the price of Bitcoin down and all this kind of stuff. It's fear-mongering. Now, we are going to talk about, later on when we talk about treasuries, we are going to talk about the one thing I've been telling you about ever since they started, maybe a year ago. And that's treasuries for different crypto assets. And I have been telling you for at least a year that this is not going to end well. But that's the next article, or 2 articles down. This is the important one. So, just to understand this, they have $49 billion in Bitcoin, and they have $8.2 billion of debt. So they are up $41 billion. They've got no repayments for the next 2 or 3 years, and they'll probably refinance that in the future as well. Claims are suggesting that the company could face bankruptcy have circulated during recent market declines. A review of publicly available financial data provides a clearer view of the company's balance sheet. So MicroStrategy holds a large Bitcoin reserve. And according to Crypto Rover, the company's total debt stands at $8.2 billion based on public disclosures. The Bitcoin reserves remain several times larger than outstanding liabilities. Okay? Please understand this. If I own a company worth $100 million, and I have $10 million of debt. That means that if you liquidated my entire company, there would be 90 million left. When you look at the valuation of a company, you look at the debt that a company has, you look at its assets, and you try and tally the two off to see if there's actually any value in a business. They've got $40 billion of value in their business. Now, if Bitcoin comes to $50,000, that 40 billion reserve will probably drop to 30 billion in reserve, but it's still above the 8 billion in debt. So even at $50,000, we're not going to see problems here. My issue is this. They have an ongoing dividend obligation tied to its preferred stock offerings. Annual dividend is roughly $890 million. Some market participants question whether these payments require Bitcoin sales. Companies' filings show cash reserves of $2.25 billion on hand. The amount can fund payments for more than 2 years. Existing reserves reduced the need for near-term asset liquidation. So my issue is not to do with Michael Saylor holding Bitcoin and having debt against Bitcoin. That is not my problem. My problem is the dividend. I am absolutely not in favor of this dividend. I do not see the point of it. If I hold shares in your business and your business's job is to buy Bitcoin, that is all I expect. I expect capital appreciation. I expect the value of that Bitcoin to go up over time. And for whatever reason I buy your business shares, maybe I can't buy Bitcoin, maybe I'm not allowed, whatever the reason, and I can buy shares in this, I don't expect a dividend, okay? To me, it looks like they're bribing people to give them money to buy more Bitcoin. That's what it looks like to me. Now, I'm clearly going to be wrong. There are clearly far more intelligent people out there that explain why this is a good idea, but I also don't think the dividend is absolutely ridiculous. And again, paying out 890 million, having 2.25 billion in reserve, they've got 2 years to see through the bear market, get to the beginning of the next bull run. 2027, 2028 will both be good years. They're probably going to refinance that debt, maybe get another 3 billion, 4 billion, 5 billion, whatever it is in debt, and then that's going to keep them going for another 5 or 6 years. And by that time, yes, Bitcoin is likely to be north of maybe $500,000, and that reserve of 49.4 billion is probably going to be a reserve of $400 billion. So this is only short term. He doesn't care. He takes your dollars that you give him for his shares and he buys Bitcoin. He is absolutely transparent when it comes to that. So don't be fooled when people tell you that Strategy is going to be liquidated. They're 40 billion up. They're not going to be liquidated. Right, good morning to Tariq and good morning to Danny. I hope you're well. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of Bob Ross. We've covered this before. I explained this on Friday, I think. No, Saturday when we streamed, because Friday it didn't work. And basically we were explaining that the price of Bitcoin has come down 3 times faster than it came down in 2022. And what I wanted to do was basically show you, using really bad drawn rough lines, what I think is going to happen. And it's not going to follow exactly, but I want to give you a rough idea. So we come up, we have a small retracement, we top out, we come down, we get rejected at the bull market support band, we dump, and then we wiggle along for a little bit, and then we start moving up. Okay? Now, this is the magic part. This is the Tony Hart part. We're going to move that across to about there. We're going to do it to there because it's going to fit. There we go. Now, we came up, we dropped a little bit, we came up again. Yes, we did double top, ignore that. Then what did we do? We came down. We then got back to the bull market support band, which said nada bueno. And what did we do then? We came down, and then we go sideways until roughly a year after the event, and then we start to go up. Now, forget all of the other outliers and focus on the pattern. We go up. We have a big drop down. We have a relief rally into the bull market support band. We get rejected. We come down. We have our big dip, which we've done. And then we go sideways. And funnily enough, where that red line is there, we start to go up again. And that is October. So I'm sticking to this because I think if we look at 2018, look at 2014, it's a similar pattern. Now, it's a pattern. It doesn't mean it's accurate. We could quite easily do this. Get back into the bull market support band again, get above the bull market support band, and then do that. Of course we can, but it doesn't fit with anything that's ever happened in the past. So we can't make a layout or a setup for Bitcoin that's never happened in the past. We can only use the past to give us an indication. The indication to me is this. We appear to have found a very good level for Bitcoin, which is around about the previous all-time high, which is $69,000. That is where we are right now. The one line that I did remove, that I probably shouldn't have removed, is this line here, which is about there. That is the level that I think we could come down to and put in our low in October, which is 50,000. The other line we've got is 63,000, which is a 50% retracement, which is just a finger in the air. So we hold here and we tread sideways for probably 6 to 8 months. We just go sideways. And when I mean we go sideways, I don't mean we do this. I mean we get range bound. And maybe the range is something like, let's say there, which is the bottom of that, and then let's say the range is a little bit further down than that, maybe to that level there. So when I say we go sideways, maybe we go sideways in this range here and we don't move. Maybe we don't move. Do you remember when we streamed for this entire period of time over here and I said summer, go away, come back, July, August, dead? We treaded sideways forever. We have a habit with Bitcoin of trading sideways in these like accumulation areas. That's, I think, and I hope, where we are now. Now, if we do that, then great. We're hanging around 67, 70, 72, 74,000. We do that for another 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it might be. Everybody's happy. But it doesn't mean, for example, that we can't do this and actually break out. It's just a range that we could be in. So that's the positive outlook. The negative is we do have a bit more volatility. We come down to the 50,000 and then we break back up. But whichever way we look at this, and I've said this before, I think we finished the year, December the 31st, I think we finish it higher than we came in. And that is a bold statement to make when I think we came into the year at about 92,000. And we're a long way from that. Yes, we are, 40% away from that? I know. But again, October will see the bottom and then we will start to move up. So that's what I think is going to happen. That's a different way from me showing it you rather than doing the prices. That's me simply copying the pattern from the previous cycle, which so far we have done. Okay? And that cycle, you can clearly see it on here. Down, bull market support band rejected. Down, bull market support band rejected. It's the same move in a different time zone, in a different time period, and now we are exactly, as if by magic, back in this range. Okay? So, Bitcoin has muscle memory. It remembers an awful lot of its history. It remembers the prices that the history happened at, the all-time highs, the resistance, the support. It remembers it all. Now then, moving on. And again, I tell you very, very clearly every day to keep an eye on the ETF flows. And I did this with Bitcoin and Ethereum. In fact, January 2025, when Ethereum was in the doldrums, I sat here and I said to you, look at the volume on the Ethereum ETF. It might not be the same volume as the Bitcoin ETF because Bitcoin is immeasurably bigger, but look at the volume. And now I'm sitting here in February 2026 telling you the same thing about XRP. Now, XRP's at 140. It's followed the market down, but it also had one of the biggest bounces, if you remember. We were talked about that last week. Look at what the appetite is. Who is buying what? We're not sitting here talking about the Solana ETF. We're talking about the XRP ETF. And the reason is, for me, the 4 big ETFs that will ever be are Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. They're the big ones. Now, I'm going to be very, very happy when Ondo and Chainlink and BNB, I'm going to be very, very happy, Cardano, and be very, very happy when they get their own ETFs. Of course I am. But the volume isn't going to be anywhere near the volume of what we're going to see on these top 4. Okay? These are the 4 brothers. We're not going to call them sisters. These are the 4 brothers, the 4 horsemen of the Cryptopolis. Okay? They've come and they're getting the volume. And this volume takes time to build up momentum. The Bitcoin volume did, the Ethereum volume did, and now we're talking about the XRP one. It's history repeating itself over and over again. 45 million in weekly ETF inflows as Bitcoin and Ethereum suffered a combined 229 million in hemorrhage capital. What I would say is this is a good number to look at for Ethereum, and this is an irrelevant number to look at. Sorry, this is a good number to look at for XRP. This is an irrelevance for Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is tiny. Okay, it just looks big because it's near 45 million. What you need to focus on is this. That 45 million in weekly inflows. That's what, at this price, 40 million XRP in a week. 40 million in a week. Now, we know there are billions, yes. But this is like, I'm going to say it, and you know what I'm going to say. This is like the straw that broke the camel's back. This is like Buckaroo. These things take time to build up. If it does 45 million a week, 55 million a week, 65 million a week, this eventually is going to drain a lot of XRP, the same way that Solana ETFs is going to drain a lot of Solana ETFs. Think of it this way. These are not crypto bros. These are not exchanges. This money is in Web 2. This money is in people's 401ks, the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, the Solana, the XRPs. They don't trade at 4 o'clock in the morning. They trade maybe over Thanksgiving dinner when their son-in-law comes round and they say, hey, Jake, how's that crypto thing? And Jake says, your XRP's doing fantastic, your Solana's doing fantastic, maybe take some profits on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Thanks, Jake. I'll go and have a word. And then in January, which is 3 months later, he'll phone Gus. Hey, Gus, can you sell us some of those Bitcoins? That's how it works. Months, not seconds. And that's why I harp on about these ETFs so much, because the people buying these, they're my age. They have grey hair and mortgages. I don't have a mortgage anymore, but you know what I mean. They have kids. They have usual things, okay? They're not you. At the beginning of your life, where you have no worries in the world and you can trade Ethereum, Bitcoin, you can just trade it on a daily basis and you don't care. What did Warren Buffett say? He didn't say something like you've got to treat every trade as if you've got a punch card and you've only got 20 holes to punch on that punch card, and you need to treat every trade as if it's a hole on that punch card. You don't do that. You don't give it a second glance. You buy a little bit of Bitcoin, you might sell a little bit of Ethereum, whatever it might be. These people buying this are my age, and I know exactly what they're like. They don't care. They will just hold it until the point where somebody turns up and says, hey, Pop, you bought that XRP, lol. You've lost 66%, lol. You should have just bought Bitcoin, lol. And then Dad goes, I'm just going to go and buy Bitcoin, and then goes and sells everything into Bitcoin. That takes a long time to happen, okay? So this is important, because I don't believe XRP is going to go back to the price it was at the bottom of the 2022 bear market. That's why I'm bringing this up. I think similar to Bitcoin, similar to Ethereum, the XRPs, the ETFs have shunted the price of certain coins up to give them a higher base than maybe they had in the past. So I don't think we're going to see a 20-cent XRP, 30-cent XRP. I do think we could break $1. I do think we could go back to 80 cents, of course. I'm not saying we're not going to go lower, but I'm saying I don't think we're going to go right back to the beginning. Now, if you said, is XRP or Cardano going to retrace to 2022 lows? I'm going to tell you, without a heartbeat, 2022 low is going to be Cardano. It's going to go straight back there. I'm not going to say the same thing about XRP. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it will come down more, which is more buying opportunity for you. But I don't think that we're going to see a massive retracement all the way back to the same number. Okay? I don't think that's going to happen. Now, this is the one thing I have been telling you about for a year. Okay? And this is important to understand the distinction. Good morning, Adelaine. I think you're watching on Twitch. Good morning. I hope you're well. October, says Danny. Absolutely. KB, was this the shakeout that formed a macro higher low before we continue up? I can't believe this, okay? We're going up for months. And I'm going, we're going higher, we're going higher. And KB's in chat going, no, mate, it's over. It's over. It's finished. We're dead. We're done for. We're going higher. Look at us go. And now I'm sitting here saying we're going to go to $50,000. $50,000, and then you'll be lucky. 49, 50, whatever it might be. And KB comes in and goes, we're just going to put in a higher low. We're just going to absolutely rock it to the moon. It's amazing how different people have different opinions. And I love it. I'd hate it if we all sat in here and had the same opinion. The point is, what I say is my opinion. KB says it's his opinion. Tariq's got his opinion. Danny's got his opinion. That's the entire point. Unless you come in here and you just say it's over without any reason every day, then it's fine. You can have an opinion. If we have put in a higher low and we are going to go higher from here and we break the bull market support band, that's important, and we hold it as support and we start pushing higher, if we do all of those things, I will join KB. At which point KB is probably going to say we're going to go and put in a new low. But I will be on that side. But for now, and probably since January, maybe, we've kind of accepted that this is the bear market. Bear market's been going on since October. If it has, the earliest that we're going to bottom, and I've said this before, is Kevin Walsh comes in May. If he comes in May, maybe June, July is the earliest we bottom. But historically, it's 360 to 410 days. So think about that. If October, whatever it was, the 10th was the top. If October the 10th was the top, 365 days is October the 10th, 2026. Then you've got to add on maybe another 20 days. So you could be looking anywhere from the middle of October to maybe the beginning of November for a bottom. Okay? Now, I do remember, was it back in 2023 when we really started to rock it up? And that was kind of the start. And September's kind of a really odd month because if you look, we always say pack your bags by September. And September's the month that everybody comes back from their summer holidays. That's why summer is so dead, because everybody comes back from the holidays, September kicks in, then we see the real movement in October. If that plays out this year, then maybe the bottom is September. But that would make it a very, very short bear market. And maybe that's the way. Maybe the bear markets do get short. Maybe it's only 320 days. Maybe it's 330 days. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. Now, this is the one thing I have been telling you about. Okay? Now, I am not going to sit here and say I told you so, because I know none of you will have got involved with any of these companies, because you're all way too clever. What is a treasury? A crypto treasury company. What they do is they take your money as an investor and they go and buy a token with it, and they put it in their treasury, or they put it into proof of stake, so they earn interest on it, and they hold it on the proviso that that asset goes up in value. Now, I told you that this was a really bad idea, and I told you that a black swan would hit us when we go into the bear market, and that black swan, in my opinion, will be limited to the chains that this happens on. That's what I have set out as my thesis for a mini black swan. What you're looking at on your screen is Forward Industries having a 1 billion unrealized Solana loss. Okay. Now you might say to yourself, what's a billion between friends? Okay. And I would take that argument, and I would point you at the direction of Tom Lee. Mr. $500,000 billion Tom Lee. Mr. $50,000-$60,000 ETH Tom Lee. Mr. Rich Dad Poor Dad Tom Lee. And I would say to you, they talk nonsense. They talk nonsense. Nothing they've said's come true. Nothing Rich Dad Poor Dad has said has come true. What did he say the other day? I'm not going to buy anything else. It's all gone horribly wrong. Literally, in the same breath, he said, I've just bought more Bitcoin. And people listen to him, retweet him, thank you so much, you're such a guy, what a legend. He flips more than Paddy Ashdown, okay? If you don't know who he is, he was the leader of a party in the UK who changed his opinion every week, okay? And he also called him Paddy Pants Down because he was caught with his pants down, but that's a different story, not for crypto. The point I'm making here is, if I had $100,000 to invest in one treasury company, it would only be Michael Saylor's. That's the only one. So, what happens when you buy Sui at $5 and Sui goes to $1.30 and you've lost 70% of your income? Your investment. You're going to be annoyed. You're going to want to sack the board. Then the person coming in is going to say, well, I'll tell you what, I want to be the CEO. If you sack the board, I'm going to sort this mess out and I'm going to try and sell it all. Okay? So the board gets sacked, guy comes in, sells it, dumps the entire market, Sui's finished. $1 billion of unrealized Solana loss is shocking. Now, maybe Forward Industries continue apace and they keep buying. But look at the average buy price, $232. Who in their right mind? Dollar costs average in at $232. Who? 100, 150, yeah. If we're going to go to $300, $450, $600 was my target, by the way. We're now at $85. They're down a billion, a billy, as they would say in America. Consequently, the shares have dropped from $40 to $5 today. So the share price has dropped dramatically. Incredible, isn't it? So let's say you bought those shares at $40 and your shares are now worth $5. How long are you going to hold them for before you sell? Well, I saw this guy who was slightly grey and very, very, very tired looking guy, and he told me Solana was going to $50 and it's at 85, so it's going to drop another 40%. I'm not going to sell at $3, I'm going to sell at $5. Dump, dump, dump. At what point do they have to liquidate and then dump all of that Solana? Same with Sui. Same with Sei. You don't touch anything like this with your money. And it was easy for me to just sit there and say everything is great, everything is wonderful, like a little Lego man. But you got to be honest with yourself. These are stupid ideas. And I also said at the time, of course they're going to do this. The same with ETFs. The ETFs that are being set up for meme coins are being done for what purpose? For them to make money off the fees. If they bring in $100 million into a Pudgy Penguins ETF and they're taking, 1%, okay? They're making $1 million a year for a bit of paperwork. They don't care about the performance. They're making $1 million. The big ones, obviously the Bitcoins of this world, the Ethereum of this world, they are always going to attract the most amount of money. But these smaller players, the Ospreys, I think they're called Ospreys, they've got a lot of these mini ETFs knocking around. And I'm not having a go at Osprey. I'm just saying their cost base is lower. They could probably do it. BlackRock aren't going to look at anything outside of the top 10, 15 maybe. But please, don't go near a treasury that isn't Bitcoin. Even Tom Lee's Ethereum Bitwise, or whatever it's called, Bitmain. Please, not financial advice. I am not here to give financial advice, but I do care about you losing money. And I gave this advice at $232 Solana. And I'm giving this advice today at $85 Solana. And I will give this advice again at $50 Solana. Don't buy these speculative, stupid vehicles for them to make money because they're all getting paid. They get paid whether you're down 70% or 90%. They get paid and you don't. You get kicked in the nuts every single time the price goes down. Okay? Bear that in mind. Now then, Ondo downtrend narrative is EMA alignment pointing to further decay. The one thing I'll say about Ondo, and this is kind of, we started with Maple Finance a year ago, maybe a year and a bit ago, okay? At that time, Ondo was at an $8 billion market cap, okay? And we talked about Ondo from the previous year. So in 2024, we were talking about Ondo. And I kind of missed the run-up because, as I say, I don't really like jumping on the hype train. So we followed Ondo from about 40 cents. We mentioned it on the channel at about 60 cents, and we said it was going to easily clear $1. Our all-time high price for Ondo was going to be somewhere in the $5 to $10 range, okay? Now look where we got to. This was when? This was 2024, okay? I think that was the 10th of December, 2024. And even when we talking about the all-time high for Bitcoin, it's nowhere near. It tops out near $1. We're at 24 cents. Market cap is down from 8 billion to 1.1 billion. We bought in at 60, 80 cents and $1. Okay, that's what we bought in at. So our cost base is, let's say our cost base is 80 cents. But the value of Ondo has absolutely skyrocketed. The value of the business from where it was at $1.70 to where it is today, which is down, I don't know what that's down. I don't know how we would work that out, but let's go over a year. So it's down 82% over a year. But the business isn't. The business is 10 times the business it was when it was speculation. So the question you got to ask yourself is Mike right when he says the token price does not reflect the value of a business? And the answer is yes. Okay? Now, there was a tweet about this, which if I've got time, I will cover in a minute, which I responded to yesterday on Twitter. And maybe I'll just bring this up to show you exactly what other people are saying, because this is not just Maple Finance that we're talking about here, asset value versus token value. This is something that somebody said. Now, I'm going to bring up the reply that I put in, and I'm going to bring up his original tweet, because that's what I'm interested in showing you, not my stuff. You get to listen to me plenty. You don't need to read what I've got to put as well. Now, where was that chart? Am I looking in the right place? There should be some Ondo charts. Is this replies? Am I ever going to find it? That's the question. Where are we? Right, let's go back to the beginning. These are replies. Okay, so this reply should be in here, unless the guy's deleted the tweet, and then it will have deleted my reply. That is a possibility, and maybe he has done that, which would be a shame. 2 on circled USD1, Wolf Swap, Pamper, Scott McTominay. Here we go. So, Michael van der Pop, he was the guy, if you remember, he sold off all of his Bitcoin and bought Ethereum. He is now talking in the same way about Ondo as I talk about Maple Finance. Massive growth in TVL. This is the growth in TVL of Ondo, and this is the price of Ondo. So green is the token price, and blue is the TVL. So when the TVL was at roughly $1 billion, maybe $800 million, the token price was $1.80. It's run to 3.2, 3.3 billion in TVL, and the token price has gone down to 27 cents. Now, I replied to this, and this is why it's quite important to understand. This is the Maple Finance TVL. It's gone from 400 million, it topped out at 5 billion, it's probably now about 4.3 billion, okay? And the token price has done the same thing as Ondo, except it hasn't come down as far. It has come down, but hasn't come down as far. So the question then is, if Ondo and Maple Finance are such amazing companies, why is the price down so much? And the answer is simple. People follow narratives. People sell with panic and fear. They don't sell with a rational mind, because people with a rational mind sell syrup at 50 and 60 cents. They don't sell it at 28 cents. The people with rational minds will sell at Ondo at $1.50. They will not sell it at 28 cents. So you have irrational people making the decisions that you're following. Everybody out there should know that selling Bitcoin at $62,000 is a terrible idea. Selling Bitcoin at $126,000 is a great idea. So you have two crowds. You have the lemmings, which lose, and then you have the rational minds, which win. And the key here is you don't become emotional about stuff like this. You can become frustrated, like I do with a lot of things. Ondo is in the same basket as Maple Finance for me, and Dupe, and Aerodrome. They make money. They are making money, but unfortunately, as far as traders are concerned, they look at charts and they follow the charts, and that is an entirely right thing to do. If Maple is in a downtrend, if Ondo is in a downtrend, of course you sell, you short, you do whatever. But come on, look at the business. Look at the business. Their AUM is now 3 times their market cap. Maple Finance, let's have a quick look at Maple Finance. So Maple Finance is sitting at let's say $4.2 billion. Maple is sitting at 27 cents, roughly, give or take a little bit. And its AUM, its market cap is 300. So the market cap is 14 times below its AUM. Ondo is 3 times below its AUM. So what is it? Is Ondo undervalued? Yes. So if Ondo is undervalued at 3 times less than its AUM, how much undervalued is Maple Finance? Personally, and I've said this from time immemorial, they should have a $1.20 token. And that wasn't the same as me saying Ondo should have a $5 to $10 token. That was me saying Maple Finance should have a token right now of about $1, $1.20, because of the AUM, of the growth of the business. It's a bigger business than the token, and the same thing applies to Ondo. This isn't a pitch, by the way, on Maple Finance. It's just a pitch on the market in general. Your job is to pick winners. And then you'll say, well, how do I pick a winner? You look for the businesses which are being sold off that have no right to be sold off, and the reason they're being sold off is because, I will go back to it, the losers are capitulating and they're getting out of the market, and they are being over emotional because the price has come down, and they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Everything should be treated as it was a traditional business. And if that's the case, you look for crypto businesses that make money, make profit. Maybe Ondo 2 years ago wasn't there. Maybe it was pure speculation that drove the price up. Maybe it was the time of the market. But believe you me, that's not the case now. Just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 minute. Just need to reply to somebody. There we go. Right. So Monero falls from FOMO to 63% free fall. What next for XMR? Again, I am not here to gloat about the drop in Monero. I'm here to talk about the fact that when you have a narrative, and I think people were talking about 2022 when Bitcoin was coming down, the privacy coins all shot up, and maybe that fed into the narrative. But there is nothing substantial behind the growth of Monero and Zcash. And if there's nothing behind it, what's pushing it forward, or what's pulling it forward? What's driving the price up? So Monero being down 63% is not me sitting here saying, I told you so. It's the case of, ask yourself, when a token is absolutely pumping to the upside, ask yourself, why is it going up when everything else is going down? You can do this with Hype. It's the perfect example right now. Go and look at why Hype is going up. Go and look at what they're planning to do. Go and look at their roadmap. Go and look at their revenue. Go and look at their buybacks. Go and look at them and say, is this a $31 token? Is this a $60 token? Is this something that's going to keep going up because they've changed a little bit of their model? Probably. What was behind Monero and Zcash? All I could come up with was the OGs getting out of Bitcoin and trying to put their money into something that was untraceable. That's all I had. That is all I had. The Bitcoin OGs that have held Bitcoin for 10 years have said, you know what, we've got to 120,000, 110,000, I'm selling, I'm out. And then they swap into Zcash and Monero. That's all I've got for you, okay? I'm not going to go down the conspiracy theories of saying, you know, other things happened, it was forced up because the North Korean scammers tried to drive the narrative to get people to buy it so they could dump on the market. No. We're going to stick with the fact that the only thing I could see is the OGs have been selling, and maybe they bought Zcash because they believe in privacy. But it's down 63%. It's still not down as far as I've said. I said it's going to go below $300. And Monero is not below $300 last time I checked. So it still hasn't gone back to where I said it was going to go to. Where is it right now? Monero's at $329. And I said when it was over $600, it's going to go, or when it was over $450, I think I said it's going to go back below $300. And I think it will. I'm not saying it's not going to bounce, but the retracement has been how I thought it would be. Now, had you bought Monero or any of the other coins pre the pump, fine. Back here, it was at $213. So it's still up 50%, by the way, on the year. Fantastic. But anyone looking at this chart is going to look at this line here and think, Mike's lost his marbles. This is going to go to $10,000. This is going to absolutely go to the moon. I need to buy in on this. And then you've got this old grumpy guy telling me that it's going to come straight back down again. And then I'm not going to believe him. And then what you're going to do is you're going to come across our stream again and you're going to look at it and you go, oh, yeah, he told me it was going to come back down again. This has happened so many times with so many coins where there is a narrative-driven pump that's got no substance behind it. And on the other hand, we're talking about Ondo and Maple Finance and Jupiter, profit-making businesses that are at all-time lows. So you expect me to believe that those coins over there that are almost at all-time lows are worse tokens than this? And it's just ripping to the upside for no reason whatsoever. Don't chase tornadoes. If you catch one, it will fling you up into the air and you'll end up in Kansas. Okay? Don't do it. Don't chase. Pick your tokens, pick your winners based on what you believe is right. If you are Tariq and you love Litecoin, you hold Litecoin. If you believe that Ethereum is going to become the Web3 computer, you go deep in Ethereum, elbow deep. Good for you. I'm proud because it's going to happen. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will happen, right? But you need conviction. And because you have conviction, when the price moves, you don't care. I don't care about the price of Ethereum. I should have sold it at $5,000. But if I did that for every single coin I'd ever bought, I would be worth tens of millions of dollars. It doesn't work that way. You hold the coins you think have got long-term success. I said quite clearly, if we hit these targets in this bull run, I'm selling everything but Bitcoin. And had we hit those targets, I'd have sold everything but Bitcoin. But guess what? We didn't. I'm not I'm not upset about it. I still believe in pretty much every token I hold. Pretty much every token you hold. I'm trying to think of ones right now that I don't believe in. Maybe ICP is the only token I bought 3 years ago that I still don't have faith in. Everything else, I do. Now then, ENS scraps L2 plans as Ethereum slashes costs 99%. This is an issue for me. I think you need to have... I think your chain needs to make revenue to pay everybody. And if your chain doesn't make revenue, how do people get paid? When Ethereum decided to go into a war on chain costs with Solana, and maybe it didn't, maybe BlackRock had a word and said, listen, your chain fees are too high, scrap your chain fees, you're going to make plenty of money out of us in transactions. Fine, maybe they did have that conversation. But I don't know if you've noticed, but since Ethereum's been slashing its chain fees, the layer 2s have been absolutely nailed. The layer 2s have been nailed to the point where Vitalik's gone, you know what, we don't need them anyway. We don't need those layer 2s. The layer 2s were there to provide a quick and cost-effective way of rolling up transactions and then adding them to the Ethereum blockchain. That was their point. Okay, so rather than putting 100,000 transactions a day straight into Ethereum, you'd put 100,000 transactions a day into maybe Polygon, and then Polygon would add maybe 1,000 transactions a day to Ethereum. So it just took the load off, scrapped all the fees, made it faster. Don't need layer 2s anymore. ENS, which is the Ethereum name service, was going to become a layer 2. For what reason? Why did we need that? Okay, make it cheaper. I mean, having one of those really cool names, you know, like DZ.eth, okay, lovely, great, go you. But again, does it need a layer 2? No. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I don't believe ENS should have had its own layer 2. It's a service. It's a domain name service. So again, one of the side effects of Ethereum kind of reducing all the fees, making things so much cheaper, is the fact that things will probably end up being native on Ethereum and not need a layer 2. I mean, if you are a DeFi platform on Arbitrum right now, why? Just go back to Ethereum. That's where all the money is. That would be my argument. That would be my argument. Right then, final one, and this is going to be quick because I don't want to become a stable coin and a stable coin layer 1 channel because it's boring as watching paint dry. But they are important to keep an eye on. Tether targets cross-border payments with T0 Network investment. It's made a strategic investment into T0 Network, a settlement platform designed to support USDT-based cross-border payments between licensed financial institutions. Okay, why is this important? Because these are popping up everywhere. We've talked about Plasma. We've talked about ARK. We then talked about Stable. And was it layer 0 or layer something? That's another one. This is the 5th one we've heard of now. So the question then goes from we really need these to do we need a lot of these? Like, there's only really one version of Swift in the world, okay, that everybody uses. Do we need 60 layer 1 stablecoin blockchains? And the answer is probably no. I don't think we do. And maybe what will happen is they all become proof of concept. Maybe Plasma fails, maybe ARK fails, maybe Stable works, maybe T0 works. Okay, maybe they all do. Maybe none of them do. But the point of the matter is, I think this is speculative at best right now. The platform is designed to allow each side of a transaction to send and receive funds in local currency while reducing foreign exchange exposure and minimizing the need for pre-funded accounts. Settlement occurs on a non-custodial basis with on-chain transfers taking place only between licensed partners. We built T0 Network to make borderless economic connection a reality, says James Brownlee, the CEO of T0 Network. He explained on Friday. Anyway, we don't need to talk about that. T0 is a settlement platform. USDC is going to be the payment balance, which is fantastic. It's designed for licensed banks and fintech firms operating in regulated markets. And they didn't disclose how much they invested. And that is all you really need to know about that. I think the important thing is we're probably going to see a load more. And there's probably going to be people like PayPal, certainly World Liberty Financial will get involved. Circle will get involved. There'll be many more of them popping up. But for now, it is gone 12 o'clock. Therefore, it's time for me to say goodbye. I am back tomorrow. This week, let me just check in my head. This week, I am streaming Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The Oracle is streaming Monday and Thursday and Saturday as well. So in theory, we've got 8 streams this week, which I don't think is too bad for somebody who's losing his hair. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Thank you to KB for coming, to Danny, to Kishan, to Joe, to Tariq, to everybody that's been here. Thank you. I will see you all in the morning. Take care.